Hey guys, this is Coop. Hey guys, this is Coop from Garage Gym Reviews, and today we're reviewing a Concept 2 knockoff. Yes, for real, this is the Bells of Steel Blitz rower. This is designed to take down the Concept 2 rower, which is, as anybody knows, and we constantly talk about when we're talking about rowers, is the gold standard of rowers. But what they've done is they've come in pretty significantly under the price. So does this, number one, meet the previous knockoff from other companies that we found on Amazon that kind of broke and had cheap plastic, but offer a better price than what you get from Concept 2? You'll just have to stick around to find out. Now, if you'd like to purchase it, we'll put a link below the like button where you can check out. Bells of Steel will pay us a commission, but it doesn't increase the cost that you pay. And they did send this to review, but as you'll see, this will be a very honest review. Okay, this is the Bells of Steel Blitz rower. They've kind of started a naming convention for all of their conditioning pieces. We've reviewed their Blitz air bike, which by the way, is for the price one of my favorite air bikes. It's a belt drive bike and it's just priced really well. So when they told me, Coop, we're gonna come out with a rower in the Blitz line, and the goal is to have it be similar in value to what the Blitz air bike is, I was pretty excited. The reality is, there just aren't that many competitors, legitimate ones, to the Concept 2 rower. The price and features that is offered on the Concept 2 rower is by far one of the best values in fitness. It's ridiculous. But there are now more and more companies coming out with options at lower price points or similar offerings. One that we reviewed is the Soul Air Rower Pro. We've also reviewed some really cheap knockoffs that are kind of there, but this one is honestly designed to be a legitimate competitor at a lower price point to Concept 2. And so because of that, and because they actually in their marketing on their website call out Concept 2 as this being similar to that one, I'm going to review it as such. Okay, as you can tell from the look of it, it looks exactly like the Concept 2 rower. It is so similar in look and also features. So I'll just kind of start at the front end, the front bumper, and we'll work backwards. So this is designed to have the same wheels and stowability as what you'd find with a C2 rower. So it can stand up, also has the ability to break down with this handle where you can pull it up and then come down. That is a pinch point, by the way. They put a sticker there to protect yourself, but just be careful if you're doing that. But it does have wheels with the wheel shrouds on the front. For performance purposes, this one, which is one thing in my Assault Air Rower Pro review that I talked about that didn't have a damper, this one does have a damper. So it has a damper just like the C2 rower, going from 1, which is letting in no air, to 10, increasing the amount of air that's in there, and therefore the resistance, because there's more air entering the chamber. It's not necessarily resistance either. That's just, I think, the easiest way to talk about it. I know there's gonna be crew members, they do this every video. It's not resistance. I'm not saying it's resistance, it's just letting in more air. More air kind of does equal resistance though. Okay, but it has a unique design. I mean, you can decide whether you like this design better than the C2, but other than that, it's a very similar operation. And in fact, they're using a shame aluminum shroud on the outside, which is the air intake. Honestly, I would not be surprised. The components on this are so similar in so many ways to what C2 is using, and C2 sells all of their parts individually so you can upgrade, or if you have something that breaks over time, you can replace it. I would not be surprised if you could replace nearly all the parts on this one with what you can get on C2. Now I will say also generally, because this is what you want to know, is how's the overall quality in comparison to C2? It may be looking similar. I would say this is between the previous Murtazol or the really cheap Amazon dupe of the C2 rower and the C2 rower. This is not as good of quality in the plastic and just kind of the overall fit and finish as C2, but it's also much cheaper. Now, another thing on this is a quite a bit heavier rower. So this rower is 90 pounds, the C2 rower is 54 pounds. Now you may be asking yourself, it looks the exact same. Where are they adding the weight? Well, C2, one of the reasons it's more expensive is they're using a more expensive material in aluminum. This is using more steel. Because there's more steel, it's a heavier rower. Yet, in use, it feels to me at least, pretty similar stability. So I never really have stability problems with C2s. You can see sometimes if like a world's strongest man jumps on a C2 and just goes ham on them, they can kind of scoop back a little bit, but for a majority of people that are using them, you'll have no issues. So the extra weight on here, they may say is a benefit because of stability, but I'd actually say it's a detriment because it's just harder to move around, and in use for pretty much everybody, it's not gonna change much, but it's worth calling out. This is a heavier rower, which means it's a little bit harder to move, but it's still not crazy heavy. Really only the way it's gonna feel heavy is if you're picking it up, but most people, because of the wheels and because most of the weight is up front, it's not gonna feel that much heavier. Now on to like the actual experience. So the handles, chain, it's all designed, it feels very much similar to C2, but a budget version. So the handle, it actually has similar ergonomics. The grips do not feel as good, and they're actually a little bit thinner in diameter and feeling. The chain honestly looks like a very similar chain, but the way that these return is with a shock cord that runs underneath. The shock cord is, and this is kind of seen with a lot of rowers that we've used, it's just too tight. So when you're pulling on the return, it just really wants to pull you back. The C2 rower, one reason it feels so good, especially at longer meters, is you're not having to fight it back. You kind of just pull in lightly. This one, you can probably adjust the shock cord in the bottom, and over time it will loosen, but just out of the box, feels way too tight. And also the handle, because of the thinner diameter, if you're doing a lot of meters, you may get some grip fatigue more quickly than what you'd get on the C2 rower. The feet, this is honestly one of the parts that I think is the worst done on this versus the C2 rower. These are using Velcro versus tension straps that are used on the C2. This Velcro is the cheapest Velcro I think I've ever seen. Like you can already see there's threads coming off. It's not gonna stick very long term. So just be aware, like, yes, it's cheaper, but there are parts of the machine that may look similar, but this is a much worse experience. It does have the same flaps that are used on the C2, but it is and feels like a cheaper plastic, but in use, feels very similar. Then to the seat, it's a, whoa, hey, ho. It's like when you forget to put the seat down on a toilet, it's like, hey. The seat is much more squishy than what's on the C2, which may feel more comfortable in the short run, but I do wonder if it's gonna have the density to really hold up to large bottoms when you're actually using it long term. I think over time it's just gonna break down more. And then it is using an aluminum top rail. One thing though to note that we noticed, we actually had somebody that was like playing on this, a little kid, they were going back and forth on it, and they got their hand down and rubbed it along the aluminum rail. Listen, like, that does happen. People, my kids are always using my rowers in my gym and my ski erg. So they got their hand down and they kind of cut their finger a little bit on this aluminum wrap. Never had that happen to a C2, never worried about that. If you have, let me know in the comments, but something to be aware of. Then to the monitor. The monitor, for lack of a better term, is just not good. It's just not. It's a very cheap monitor. I would say this is the worst part of the entire machine. Assault, although it's not a PM5 like used on C2, it is a better monitor than what this is. It's hard to figure out like what modes you're in. One thing that is kind of unique though, I've noticed this, it actually tracks what level the damper is. So it's actually digitally controlled. Some way it's able to tell you on the screen what level it is. So if I go up here, level 5, level 8, level 10. Kind of a cool feature to let it know what you're on. I mean, it's really easy to just look and see, but something they added. Honestly, I wish they would have added more other things and less that thing, but just be aware, if you're looking for a PM5 experience, this isn't it. Okay, all that said, which one would I get? Well, this is the reality. This right now on pre-order is 800 bucks, okay? The pre-order price is 50 bucks less than retail. After the pre-order happens, I'm guessing they're gonna go up to 850. That's what they have listed. The C2 without shipping is around 1,000 bucks. You throw in about 45 bucks shipping, it's 1,045 bucks. So you're looking at total right now about 245 bucks. After the pre-order price, you're looking at around 200 bucks. Is this worth the value 200 bucks less? And I'd say no, it's just not. It's just not quite there, at least for me. If this was 600 bucks, then I'd say definitely this is worth it, half the price. But honestly, it's just not, it's not there. Like for some people, if you don't care about the monitor, if you don't care about just some of the components, replacing them, dealing with them, I think it's gonna work fine. Like, this is a better built rower than, say, the cheaper Amazon dupes. It's definitely in between, but it's also in between on price. And because they're close enough, and because the C2 rower is so freaking good and the gold standard, like, I just don't see a reason to spend 200 bucks less. And this is kind of the reality for all products. If you're gonna come out with a rower and it's gonna compete against that one that is so good, it's gotta either absolutely kill it in features, which Hydro kind of did, or come in way underpriced. And this just isn't it, it's just middle road. So I like having an option for people that don't wanna spend quite 200 bucks more, but for a vast majority of you, like, these are just honest reviews, I would still recommend the C2. Another important component for C2s as well to factor in, this will not have nearly the resale value as Concept 2. Concept 2's resale value is like 90% of what you buy it. Honestly, if you find it for like 200 bucks off, 100 bucks off, something like that, like, you just snatch that sucker up, because you can at least resell it for more, or you're just gonna get a good deal on it. Whereas this, it just doesn't have the brand value of C2, so it's just not gonna resell for the same amount. Okay. Let me know in the comments of what you think. Would you choose this for a couple $100 less than C2? Have you had any experience with this one? Or is there any other rower out there you'd like to see me review that is on the horizon? This has been Coop from Garage and Reviews. I'll see you next time. Peace.